All right, good afternoon and welcome to the webinar or meeting, Zoom meeting. And the discussion today is about a very important topic regarding a levy income guarantee, which is the presentation is been done by Charles Kutsia from One, and they are one of our insurers. Charles, thank you so much for your time, and over to you.
Thank you, Saki. I want to say thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm talking to a group of managing agents mainly,
Yes.
And they're all your clients or potential clients.
That's correct.
And so I'm 69 years old. I've been in the business of levy cover for about 10 years now. And a lot of your managing agents might probably would have heard of this product or type of product for some time. So One levy cover worked into the space about 4 or 5 years ago, where they had this cover embedded into the material damage policy. For the first time from the 1st of January, I have the opportunity to sell this cover as a separate policy. It's a standalone policy, and it can be sold to via the brokers to all community schemes, such as homeowner associations and body corporate schemes. So we cover from Cape Town to Joburg, from Bloemfontein to East London, and we have clients all over the country. And really what it is that I'm going to invite questions later on, but in essence, really what it does, it guarantees the cash flow for the body corporate. I wouldn't say for life, but really for a very, very long time, because the cover for body corporate schemes is, I'm not going to, so I can't control my screen. I'm going to ask you to go to the next screen, Saki.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask you to go to page 5. Just keep on going. Next. There. Okay. So really, now go back a bit. So really what I'm going to be talking about mainly here is that the benefits and advantages of having the levy cover in place. It's actually quite obvious, if you've been a managing agent for a very long time, is that even as an employee, is to guarantee your cash flow is something that, is absolutely amazing. And if you could do that, it'll be fantastic for body corporates, especially when the guys, a lot of the owners that are paying their levies, they battle in some way, they lost their jobs. They have other kinds of cash flow problems with regard to illnesses and cars and etc. And they can't always pay the levies on time all the time. And what we do or bring to the party is that we guarantee that cash flow for the body corporate. And that guarantee really refers to the cover that we provide, which is 10% of the insured value of the individual unit in a body corporate scheme. And in a HOA, it's 60 times the monthly levy. So that's like 5 years worth of monthly levies, which is quite substantial. So if an owner, for example, owns a flat on the top floor of a block of flats, which is maybe 5 million rands worth, we'll cover up to 500,000 rands worth of levies. And if maybe the bottom flat is maybe worth a little bit less, maybe 200 or 2 million rand, we'll cover 200,000 rand worth of levies. And what it really does, it means that these payments are not loans to the body corporate. They are straightforward. Once we make the payments, there is no coming back to the body corporate to say that we want our money back, unless of course there's been some fraudulent activities, but that's not really what we're talking about here. In essence, we make the claim, you make the claim, we make the payment, and then your problem disappears as the trustees and or managing agent. The cover includes special levies, electricity, water, and interest on those claims. So often the body corporate would in fact charge interest rates of usually say 2% or whatever rate they've got. We cover that as well. So it's very important to know that if the body corporate has got charges, like a managing agent might be a debt collector, those charges that the registered debt collector charges on that particular item that they're claiming for is also covered. The levy claims, we pay out, most body corporates claim every 2 months or 3 months. because the minimum amount you're allowed to claim is 2,500 Rand. We don't really want to make claims smaller than that, but so 2,500 and above. It really what it does is that it takes the budget problems away. Is that you can budget all day long for 100% of levies to come in, but it never comes in. So you can't do the repairs, you can't fix, the gate, you can't do the painting, etc. But with this kind of, support that you have for the body corporate or the HOA, you know that you're going to collect all your monies, and there's no legal fees. You don't have to budget for legal fees because we're taking care of it. The cash flow is, of course, the most vital thing, and that's immediate. It's guaranteed, and of course, you're going to get the best price for your property when you sell it. Whether you're a good payer or a bad payer, the value that you get with a cash flow, a positive cash flow, is really substantial because banks will grant bonds easier in a well-kept building. You're able to sell your unit easier, etc. And that's quite obvious to anybody who's been involved with buildings where they have no cash. So of course, attorney's costs disappears, and our policy is 2 or 3 pages long. It's very easy to understand. So the standalone, so you could have, for example, a material damage policy with one, and you can write it into that policy as a value-added product. And when I talk about a VAP, the broker, Saki, will know exactly what I'm talking about. And it comes out at a lower rate. So if you have a one policy, you're paying 15 Rand per unit per month on that policy, if it's in the material damage policy. And if you take it as a standalone, it's a little bit more expensive. So if, for example, your client doesn't really want to move from, let's say, CIA, and they really need this policy, they can take it out with us at 25 Rand per unit per month. The minimum amount of premium there is 500 Rand. So if you have a building of, say, 20 units, it's times 25 is 500 Rand. If you have a building of 10 units, it's also 500 Rand. So the minimum amount of premium is going to be the 500 Rand per month. So the smaller ones have to pay a little bit more per unit, but that's the way it is. So that's really the advantages and the benefits of the levy cover. And if I'm talking to managing agents, is that there must be lots of questions they want to ask. But I'm going to continue, if you don't mind, because we don't always have a lot of time, is that I want to continue with the issue with regard to the levy clearance certificate, which is the next page.
Okay, so I just want to quickly get to that.
Okay. So this is the onus that sits with the managing agent. When a body corporate or a HOA takes out the policy, they may not issue a levy clearance certificate without our consent. Okay, and that's very important. Is that whenever, even if it's 2 years or 3 years later, just make quite sure that the body corporate is highlighted, that this has got a policy in it, and that that they should ask us for our consent with regard to the levy clearance certificate. Okay, and that's really the catch-all for everybody. A body corporate is a very powerful thing. It's guaranteed as money. What we do, we don't change any of that. What we really do is bring in the cash flow advantage. Is that whether you use an insurance company or a finance company for funding, the big thing is that the body corporate will always be getting its cash. The thing is, it can't wait 6 months or 2 years for the cash to do the repairs. And usually the managing agent is the guy who has to answer, like why the gate isn't repaired, why aren't we painting the lines on the parking bays, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, what happens is that there are less insurance claims when your maintenance is up to date. So your gutters are clean. There's no doubt that, there's going to be a question with regard to the insurer to say that, if you cleaned your gutters, we wouldn't have had this claim, so we're not going to pay the claim. A body corporate or a HOA with a good cash flow won't have those kind of problems. And to make claims, it's very easy. If you flick to the next page, is that we will assist the body corporate all along the way, because that's our business. Our business is all about the claims. We settle as fast as possible. There are no payments to the body corporate unless there is the paperwork. The paperwork is the biggest problem for managing agents. but the paperwork is what they've got. Most of the stuff that they need to give to us will be done mainly once. And thereafter, we need the resolutions every year at the AGM to actually do the levies, make quite sure the levies are raised legally. But the managing agent, I have been a managing agent. I was a managing agent up to about 20 years ago, and I was in that business for about 30 years. And I understand the amount of work that the managing agent has to do. So we'll try to make it as little as possible for them. And the paperwork that is required is the paperwork that they would have to do anyway. If you go to the next page, you will see that we need a special resolution, we need a trustee resolution, and these resolutions are resolutions that are required for us to recover the money as the years go by. So, and they're very simple, and they're easy, and the managing agent will have to do 1 or 2 meetings, which they have at the AGM. So special resolutions are normally 30-day notice, as your managing agents will know. So when you have your AGM, you give a 30-day notice for the AGM and to have this meeting at the same time. So if you look at the next page, you'll see that what is the defined event of the cover. And really what it is that as soon as somebody defaults in their payment and the amount of money that is owed is 2,500 or more, that is when you actually are covered. It doesn't matter the reason why the person hasn't paid. They must have just defaulted. And the 1 month that the guy hasn't paid, sometimes the guy may be paid late, for example. Those are kind of things we don't want to get involved with. These must be people that, for example, that, you're not going to pay in the next few days. So, but the defined event is quite simple. Unpaid, 2,500 or more, we'll make the payment. There's lots of questions the manager agent can ask us. We have frequently asked questions of about 50 of them, and we'll share it with you in due course. But for the purpose of this 45-minute presentation, I can't go through all the things. But some of the things, for example, if you go to the next slide, what some of the guys do ask me, especially the brokers ask me, is that if we're paying R1 million out in claims, in levies, and we do that quite often. In the bigger schemes, we pay millions of rands in levy cover, in claims. And they say, but will we be penalized with regard to the material damage policy? And the answer is no. It doesn't matter how much money you claim for in respect of claims. There will be no penalty with regard to the number of claims. As long as we stay within the limits of the 10% and the 60 months for HAs, everything is fine. If you go to the next slide, listen, guys, if I'm going too fast, you say, listen, I'm going to ask you lots of questions. That's great. I do tend to talk faster than I should, but if you can hear me properly, that'd be great.
100%.
So the next question with regard to frequently asked questions, will the insurer consider insurance schemes where the levies have already been ceded? And the answer is no, because there is no hold onto the on that owner because it's been ceded already. So you might find that managing agents have gone to other kinds of financial institutions where they have got overdraft facilities or loans, and those levies have been ceded, and we can't do that unless that's been cancelled. So if, for example, you do have schemes where they've been ceded, you talk to me, you phone me, you write to me, I will have a discussion with you and to see how we can make a plan for you. Because sometimes what happens is, because our policy is a monthly policy, you can give us notice anytime. You're not locked in for years and years and years. But some of the financial plans out there is that you have to repay your loans and you can't get out of it that easy. And you're kind of stuck with that financial institution with regard to overdrafts and loans, etc. But there are ways, because I'm an old dog and I've been around the block for a while, I can help body corporates and managing agents to look for alternatives. But so some of the schemes have got big loans out there and they can't get out of it, and the costs are very high. The beauty of us, of course, is that it's an insurance policy. If you don't like us, we don't pay you fast enough, our interest rates are too high for the owner, whatever it may be, you can get out by giving us simple 1 month's notice. So that's the beauty of it. The next page, if you see, is the policy affected by the issues of the body corporate units? No. So, you get mixed use schemes with commercial, industrial, retail, residential. A body corporate is a body corporate for us, so that's not a problem. And with regard to the next page, you'll see that what is the maximum claim. So, so as long as the claim does not exceed, if you raise a special levy, for example, and especially for painting or waterproofing, especially if it can be anything from 10,000 to 50,000 to 20,000, 100,000, as long as that 50 or 100,000 rand is within that 10% of the we will pay. So next page. This is one of the things that most body corporates battle with cash flow, is that what happens is the policy is taken out on the 1st of January, but at that point in time, it has existing arrear levies of maybe 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, 200,000. I've seen some very large arrears. Now, because the policy only starts on the 1st of January, we can only cover the levies from going forward. But those things, you know, there are lots of products on the market where you can actually get the managing agent or your client to actually cash those numbers in. I know lots of people that in fact will buy debt, and so will your managing agent, because if they have these kinds of buildings, they would have exhausted every kind of avenue to try to recover money. I have connections and they will have connections, and we can discuss that, but we can't cover those things which are not part of the cover prior to the commencement of the policy date. And the next question is, and this is only one of maybe many questions, or a few of many questions, so I'm only giving you a couple. What interest is covered by the policy? So if, for example, the body corporate has a policy of interest rate, whatever that interest resolution is up to that point, we will pay the interest on that amount, on that levy claim that's outstanding. Not prior to the policy. So if, for example, the body corporate has a policy in place to pay interest at 15% from the 1st of January when the policy is taken out, and they're making a claim after March, so those 3 months of interest we will cover if the resolution is in place. Next question, are claims which are usually submitted by the managed agent on the claim form in respect of multiple units considered as one claim? No. If they are, we have an Excel spreadsheet system where you can make, let's say a body corporate has got, say, 300 units, and they're making, say, 30, 40 claims on one page. There's 30 or 40 different claims. We treat it as separate claims, but we make it easier for the managing agent to actually just give us a list on an Excel spreadsheet. But it doesn't really have a big impact with regard to how we deal with it. But you can make multiple claims on one form, but we actually treat each one of those items on that Excel spreadsheet as a separate claim. Now, that was very fast, guys. And I can tell you that it's taken me 20 minutes basically to tell you a lot in a nutshell, but it's a lot of questions that you want to ask. Yeah. And that's really where I want to be. I can send you information, but it's not really the place just to send information. I want to chat about things and about questions over this platform. And only then will I can understand what the real problems that you might have with regard to your schemes and how I can assist in some way. So, Saki, I'm going to ask you, ask any questions.
I've got some questions here. The first question is that's been asked by the platform is just to take us through the process. And I'm going to go layman's terms now. I'm a managing agent of a body corporate, and there's a default on levies. Must I then go through the whole process? Obviously, there's special resolutions that's been passed, and then there's a default on a levy. Do I need to go through the whole process on the legal process before, and when do I hand them over to you guys that you can then recoup the cost and then pay out the claim?
Okay. I'm glad you asked that question, because what happens is once it goes to an attorney, we don't want to deal with it. So if you take, for example, a policy that is, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
So if, for example, the policy is incepted from the 1st of January, don't take any legal action, because then it's already in the hands of an attorney. And they have problems with that. So the whole point with us is that you don't take legal action, and we will deal with the cash. So if, for example, the levies are 3,000 Rand in arrears by the 31st of March, you know you're going to claim for it because you got covered. So 3,000 Rand, you pay the 3,000 Rand less the excesses. And then, so the process is this. We only are allowed to deal with brokers, okay? The broker then gives the policy to the managing agent, to the client, takes out a policy, But the broker doesn't get involved with claims. The managing agent gets involved with claims. You as Saki or Lindsay can get involved with the claims, but really you don't really need to, because most of the work is done through the managing agent. We'll keep you in the loop, etc., to tell you what's happening, but most of the work is done through the managing agent. Once they submit that claim for that particular unit, we will attend to all the processes with regard to what we need to do with paperwork. So I don't know if I've answered all the questions, but the resolutions are the most important part of everything in sectional title. Resolutions all day long. That will get the body corporate out of trouble, the managing agent out of trouble, the insurance broker out of trouble. That's really the essence of everything. The policy is the easy part. The premiums are easy. It's very affordable in most cases. The questions is the resolutions and the paperwork, and that sits with the managing agent. He does all the work. He doesn't get paid for that work as part of his job, but he is lumbered with a lot of stuff. The thing is that we make it easy for him to get the money faster. So most of the time, the work is upfront with the resolutions, which is especially with the special resolution, which is a 30-day notice. In the old days, I'm saying pre-SOCA days, not pre-SOCA, the new Sectional Title Act, I can't think of the name now, CSOS. CSOS has created a lot of extra, let's say, problems for a lot of people. It's cleaned up the industry in a way that it demands it has to have a 10-year maintenance plan, etc. But the effort to collect those levies, to put that money into a bank account, which is a separate bank account, it's all falls on the body corporate managing agent, you know. So, but the effort is the biggest effort for the managing agent, in my opinion, is to get those resolutions signed at the beginning. Then life is easier for everybody.
Yeah. Charles, there's just one question here is from a managing agent asking if you can assist with the wording and with the special resolution in order for them to obviously substantiate this policy.
Yes, of course. So we'll do that. That's easier for us. It's all on our files, and I can send it through to you, and you can send it through to them all.
Okay. All right. Then I've got another question here. Is just and I think it's more to do with obviously you guys, and let's just use it hypothetically. A tenant or an owner owns 3,000 rand. That gets paid out. You then recoup the cost then from the tenant or the owner then.
Yeah, so let's not talk about tenants. We only talk about owners.
Owners, yes.
Okay, so the owner is in arrears. We then take on responsibility to recover. If we don't recover that money from him, it's our problem.
Okay.
The body corporate will never have to do anything with regard to recovery.
Okay.
In fact, it's not allowed to do it because it doesn't belong to them anymore. Sure. They've actually given it to us. They can't do anything. They're not allowed to touch it. Okay, if however they do receive the money, they have to pay it back to us.
Sure. There's just one, and then it's actually a follow-up question on this one to say that the guy has defaulted now, the owner has defaulted with 3,000, and you guys then obviously take the claim, you pay the claim out, and he defaults again.
Yes.
Is that possible for him then to obviously that you will be able to will you pay the claim the second time around?
Yes, we'll pay the claims until it reaches that 10%. Okay. So what happens in most of our buildings is that you have serial defaulters, and these serial defaulters can be for lots of reasons. They don't want to pay or can't pay, lost their job. There's no ways they can pay, but the body corporate needs the cash. Okay, so every 3 months, if I look at some of my buildings, is that we pay every 3 months for these buildings, for these units. So we'll continue paying, no problem.
Okay. Right, I think this is the question, and I think we can wrap it up. And Charles, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate. And this is a question that came through us just to say that obviously, you know, and I'll actually it's a long question, but I'll just wrap it up on what my understanding of it is that when they start the policy, obviously, you know, you will then guide them on what exactly needs to be put in place. Obviously with us as the broker, but we will then put the policy in place with all the necessary resolutions and all that needs to be put in place. And obviously, you know, from there onwards, whenever there's a claim, then obviously they will then submit the claim and you will handle the claim from there onwards. And at the end of the day, the question is asking, and it's actually a statement that this person is making. He's saying that he's extremely interested because of the fact that the cash flow of the body corporate is in a positive all the time.
Absolutely.
Is that the correct statement?
Yes, it is true. I can tell you what CSOS has done in terms of the 10-year maintenance plan. It's forced the body corporate to put money, not a journal entry, but money into a second bank account. And you can't put a journal entry into a second bank account. You can only put cash in it. And they will fall foul of CSOS. Now, CSOS are not very well run. And anything that, let's say, for example, the body corporate hasn't got cash in their second bank account, I don't suspect that CSOS can actually, they don't have enough policing power to actually check that out. But in terms of the legislation, they have to put that cash of the 10-year maintenance plan in the second bank account. But also what it does is that, how nice is it? You know, I know manager agents that in fact don't take their fees because there's no cash. And they can't pay, you know, their lights, the water gets put off, they can't pay electricity. There's lots of stuff. I mean, without the cash, there is nothing. Without your salary, you have nothing. You can't pay your car. I mean, if you don't have your cash every single month in your bank account, you have nothing. You don't have a wife, you have nobody, you have nothing, you don't have a husband. You've got to get your cash in. So your cash flow is vital and the most important thing for the well-being of your person and for body corporate schemes. If you take it to your second most important thing, is that your body corporate scheme has to have cash. Forget about the budget. If it doesn't get the cash, and I know I'm harping on it, I don't care how you get the cash, but you need the cash. Without that, no managing agent can survive. It can't. It will have a hard time for life.
Charles, just one more question that popped up here was regarding the excess. What are we looking at the excess wise? What is the excess on?
The excess is 10% for every claim.
Okay.
So if, for example, you make a claim for 10,000 Rand, we'll pay you 9,000 Rand. Now you're going to ask me, what do I do with 1,000 Rand? It's the cost of collection. The body corporate one that's got two choices. It can write it off or leave it on the account. Okay. But the courts are still out there and the jury is still out there, whether that you can actually recover that from the owner or not. Okay. There's been no court cases. I'm saying to the body corporate, you know what? Write it off as a cost of collection. And if you want to leave it on there, that's fine. It's entirely up to you. But there's been no court cases in that. But in terms of the excesses, it's that if you make a claim for 10,000 or 9,000, 100,000, we will pay you only 9,000 of the 10,000 or 90,000 of the 100,000.
Awesome. Charles, once again, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. And I think, you know, just by coming out of the questions, you know, we will also, all the questions that we didn't have time to answer today, yes, we will handle it. And I think what can happen is the guys can maybe just send through your questions through to Besha, to SCO Sugar Candy Oliver at besha.co.za, which will come through to Lindy, all your questions, and then we will forward that questions on to Charles, and he can answer it for us, and we will get back to you with that. Charles, just to wrap up, once again, thank you for your time. And then I think in this day and age, specifically, you know, in South Africa per se, there's a lot of body corporates and HRAs that's struggling regard to get levies in, and this is a way to assist by getting a positive cash flow. As you said, absolutely, you know, without cash flow, you know, you are actually been tripped, because I mean, you can't do maintenance, you can't do, you know, your electricity fees or payments of your utility bills, and it just becomes a whole ripple effect. But I think this product is brilliant. We from our side are definitely gonna you know, propose it to all our managing agents, and these guys that's on the call today, or these guys that's listening to the recording, please make contact with us. And like Charles says, you know, we will then sit down with you and work a plan out for you to make sure that we get all your paperwork before we start the policy, to get all the necessary resolutions passed. So when the policy starts and there is a claim, that we will not have any issues. But just to get the paperwork, like you say, it's all about the resolutions, getting that in order and to make sure that the foundation is correct, and then we can start building the house. But Charles, once again, thank you for your time, and thank you to the listeners that's on the call this afternoon, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Saki and Lindy. Thank you for the opportunity. And I hope to be able to make a trip soon. And then
Awesome.
be nice to actually meet the guys face to face and have some tea or breakfast with them. So I look forward to that in the next few weeks or months. But thank you very much for the opportunity. And I have got a booklet which I'm busy printing right now. It's got about 50 or 60 different questions. So every question that they would have posed to you, I've already got the answers for.
Oh, awesome.
So, and I will submit it to you, etc. I'm also making an ebook, which will be in the ebook format. But any question you guys have, submit it to us, and we'll respond immediately.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Charles. Yeah. And then we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye, Lindy.
Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Bye, Charles.